Hello, and welcome to the IDM Masters Interview Series, where we talk with industry experts to help you, the listener, gain insight about the best tools and practices from people on the front line to help you effectively secure your enterprise. Today on the show, we have Ike Ugochuku, President of TLK Enterprise. TLK Enterprise is focused on delivering identity management solutions for government and corporate clients. And Ike is here today to talk with us about his experiences with MIM, his background with FIM, and talk a little technology here today. So, Ike, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Scott.
All right. Well, I'm glad that you could join us today. So I always like to get to know the guest or give the listeners an opportunity to get to know the guest as we get started here. And so I know that you're not necessarily, or you're not originally from America, and I love, from a personal standpoint, I love hearing the history of the stories of how people end up in this country. And so maybe you could take just a little bit of, maybe just take a moment and tell us where you're from originally and kind of how you ended up here in the States.
Thank you. So I grew up in Nigeria, and I read engineering, civil engineering in Nigeria. I came over to America in 1994 to do my master's in business administration at Seton Hall University in South Orange, New Jersey. And after completing my master's, I got a job in the computer field. I was already working in the computer field in Nigeria, but I got a job in the computer field over here in America, and of course just stayed on from there. So
awesome. Well, that's a great story. So, how did you get started in computers? I guess in Nigeria. What was the background there?
Yeah, so in Nigeria, I worked 1 year after college as a civil engineer, and then I did a 6-month program in a computer school, and then I got a job as a COBOL programmer. That was in the days of the mainframe programming and the early introduction of the desktop computer like the IBM PS2. And that was a very interesting experience. I also got to work with 4GL programming.
Oh, wow.
Which I later discovered was rated a flop and fizzled away. I really liked it, and I thought we were heading towards what we have in Star Trek, where we can say, computer, build a connector between System G and System K.
Right.
And I believe we're heading towards this sort of programming in MIM, where you define the business objects and the attributes, and FIM builds the code for you in the back end. So.
Okay, well, exciting. Well, COBOL is something always good to know. So that, especially in the financial services industry, COBOL is, I think, still pretty widely used. So
yes.
That's, if this crazy identity management stuff doesn't work out, you've got a plan B at least. Well, that's good. So kind of speaking of MIM, how did you first get started working in the identity management space?
In 2006, I got a project to deploy a custom directory management product, and at the same time, in the same department or group, there was a project to migrate from MMS, which is Microsoft's Method Directory System, the first Microsoft IDM product, to MIIS 2003. So I finished the deployment of the directory management product, and then the lead technical engineer on the MIIS deployment project quit 1 month before they were going live. And I was handed the project and asked to deploy the product, which I had never used before or even heard about. But I love such challenges, and I spent 80 to 100 hours a week learning MIS and the design, the deployment. The customer did not change the deployment date, and I went ahead with it. It was interesting, synchronizing 300,000 users, 15 directory systems, it took 1 month for things to complete, but there was almost zero user impact. And the department won an award for that deployment. So that's how
Oh,
I
wow.
started in Microsoft IDM, and we know that the MIM sync engine is still 95% the same as MIS. So it's always a good foundation, and once you know you know how the sync engine works, you will find it easy to adapt to any other identity management product. The architecture is somewhat similar. And of course, from MIS, I got into FIM and now to MIM.
Sure, sure. Now, is the Microsoft stack the only identity management tool set you work with, or do you work with others?
I've only worked with the Microsoft identity stack.
Okay. All right. Well, so it sounds like you've got a wide history with the Microsoft tools and MIS and FIM and MIM and whatnot. So, what would you say the coolest thing is that you've ever done with the product?
I developed a password management tool for mobile devices, such as the iPhone, the Android, the Windows Phone. I saw that one of the big ticket items for service desk for corporate users is dealing with password issues. And today we do almost everything on our mobile device. So I said, if there's an IDM tool on your phone, it's less likely that people will call the service desk. And the nice thing about the MIM self-service tool is that it now gives the option where a user can just unlock their account instead of changing their password. And so I used the MIM tool at the back end and the mobile device on the cell phone, and this tool will really make a lot of corporate users happy and make them appreciate MIM. The other tool I have built is the FIM reporting tool. So I also noticed that the out-of-the-box reporting tool for MIM slash FIM is quite a titanic, huge tool integrated into Service System Center, and it's just difficult to set up and manage.
Sure.
I know a lot of people have abandoned it. So I did something very simple and basic using PowerShell, SQL, C#, JavaScript that does exactly what you want from a reporting tool, being able to investigate changes in MIM and also being able to export reports to a file.
What are some of the type of reports that you're able to pull out of there that you wouldn't necessarily get in the FIM reporting tool?
Well, the FIM reporting tool doesn't give you the option to export it, for instance, to a comma delimited file, and it's the reports. I don't know if you've seen the FIM reporting tool.
Oh yeah, no, I've seen them.
The reports are just so canned. With this one, you can customize it and say, okay, I want to see who has maybe changed their password in the last 7 days, or I want to see changes that have been made by this department in the last 7 days, or just different kind of customization requests that you can do, and you can just export it to just click a button and it exports it to a comma delimited file for you. So
okay, gotcha.
And also the other report is metrics, because I remember doing a project for a department, and they do a monthly operations meeting where they have to talk about what has happened in the system. So I would produce reports with different kind of metrics, changes that have been made, new accounts created. So I put that kind of metric report also in the system that you can always produce that and export it.
Okay, well that sounds great. Yeah, the like you said, the the canned reports that are currently available in the product certainly are, I guess, better than what we had, but the flexibility is really it's not necessarily the easiest thing to extend those or add additional ones in. So that's it sounds like you found a nice little niche for yourself there.
Yes.
So outside of developing the products, any other cool things that just from a customer focus standpoint you've delivered that you've been particularly proud of besides the 300,000 person sync?
Um, no, nothing. Just these tools. I would say yes, that I'm proud of.
Okay, cool. Um, so are you a classic provisioning code guy or a portal sync guy?
Yes, so that's a very interesting question because I started off like I've talked about. I started off with MIS, and for years I was a classic provisioning guy. I would not touch codeless provisioning. And I guess it's similar to the way Unix folks feel about Windows. In Unix, you can just about customize and reshape the OS to fit your needs. In Windows, you don't have that option of customizing. And I like the idea of writing the provisioning code and translating business requirements to code. Um, but then 2 years ago, on a project where I was the sole architect, PM, developer, I had to build FIM portal solutions, and I didn't have the luxury of the FIM workflow activity library, the FIM wall, which was
Sure.
just released. So I had to develop all my workflows via PowerShell and build so many workarounds. I absolutely liked it. It took me back to my days of 4GL programming, where you define business objects and attributes, and the system builds the code for you. And that may sound strange from a guy who I've just talked about the tool I built, C Sharp, JavaScript. Obviously, I like programming, but at
Sure.
the same time, I guess I like Star Trek, the Star Trek computer. So
Sure. No.
where you talk to the computer and just tell the computer what to build, and it builds it. So since that project, I would say I've been a portal sync guy, and as much as possible, I avoid sync engine coding. I'm actually even looking at there's a codeless provisioning management agent that's on Codeplex that quite a few people use today rather than the regular management agent. And I'm looking at that. Although the big question is how do you tie that into interfacing with different systems where you have to make some API calls, and but one thing. Let me mention something. One thing I have noticed. I've met quite a number of people who started Microsoft IDM from the FIM portal, and they seem to have a hard time grasping the concepts of the sync engine. Just it baffles me. But those who started off with the sync engine and with classic provisioning find transitioning to the FIM portal much easier. So it's just interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I would definitely agree with that assessment. I mean, I'm probably on the opposite end here, is that I still like the classic provisioning. I know with the MIM wall and whatnot that it's certainly making things a lot easier to be able to develop in the portal. But I think kind of back to your point that with those who are new to MIM, FIM, and if they're only learning the portal sync rules, And I would imagine most of Microsoft's training is really kind of focused on the portal sync rules, or from that aspect.
Yeah.
That it's, and I find the portal sync rules from an out of the box standpoint, it's still fairly. It's not. It doesn't. It's not as robust as obviously what you can do with the classic provisioning, the MIM wall, and a lot of these third party frameworks certainly help extend that. But from
Yeah.
an out of the box, I'm a brand new MIM developer. Um, just doing that, you're very limited as to what you can do compared to what you can do with C Sharp and the Sync engine.
That's
It's
true.
it's night and day, and I think that, and I don't have any way to necessarily quantify this statement, but I think a lot of people coming into the product are coming perhaps from a sysadmin standpoint, where they're used to more of a GUI type of interface to manage systems, and so the FIM portal is, or the MIM portal is certainly good for that, but they're not necessarily um, fully versed in writing code, and that's where I see a lot of resistance. That if you can't necessarily do it in a portal,
Yeah.
um, people don't want to get into the sync engine, and it really kind of limits what the product can do. So yeah, it's an interesting it's an interesting dichotomy between those two. But like you said, I think that those that grew up with the provisioning or doing the classic provisioning code can kind of go both ways, right? That once you understand the sync engine and the code around that,
Yeah.
you can certainly extend and do more in the FIM, or in the MIM portal, I should say. And so, maybe back to the new MIM portal, and MIM in general. With the new release for MIM 2016, what are some of the features or updates that you've seen in the product that you're most excited about?
There are three features that are really exciting. First is the introduction of the REST API for interfacing with the MIM service. That made a huge difference. It was almost impossible to use SOAP to talk to the MIM well, to talk to FIM and to talk to the MIM service. SOAP generally in the developers world is being abandoned for the REST API and other easier interfaces. Now the REST API was only done for the MIM privileged access management tool, but developers could the product team still exposed that knowledge, and that was very nice of them. And developers could take that knowledge and use it as a wrapper for other sections of MIM. Make a wrapper API, take the SOAP and wrap it in REST for other sections of MIM. And that was huge, and opened up MIM for more customization. The second feature is adding the option on the on the self-service password reset for the user to choose to unlock their account,
Right.
instead of changing the password. That was a big save on service desk calls, because many users have problems getting to their account, not because they changed their password and they have an open session somewhere with their old password. So it keeps locking their account. It's not that they have forgotten their password, but it's just and today when people have all kinds of mobile devices, their phone, their tablet, and all that, it's really made a big difference. That was a very useful option to add. And the third, of course, is the privileged access management tool, which enables FIM to manage giving accounts privileged access. That's something that's really growing in the industry today. So that was also very good.
Have you actually had the chance to deploy PAM outside of a lab environment, or are you really kind of strictly more in the lab now with PAM?
Strictly with the lab. I haven't used it on a project actually.
Okay. Yeah, and that's I haven't seen. I at least it seems to be pretty new, and I haven't seen anyone deploy it yet. I know that there a number of customers that I've got that have talked about doing it, but so far no one has gone out and pulled the trigger. But
I
certainly
think
there's a lot of interest in it.
I think the big turnoff is that you need another forest.
Exactly.
And that's just the idea of managing another forest is going to be a turn off to any IT director. So I know why Microsoft, that's the best practice. And they always they recommend that you put all your privileged accounts in a separate forest. So if that is compromised, your main forest is not compromised. But a lot of people have not built their Active Directory with that sort of design.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see if people are willing to go down that road. So, okay, well, maybe let's go the opposite here. What other features would you like to see added in the future, or what things do you think maybe were left out of MIM 2016 that you would have liked to have seen included?
Well, I like to see a REST API for the sync engine. I know that would make a huge difference. Except that the sync engine is probably on its way out. But because there was talk about removing it in MIM, but I think they thought that change would have been too dramatic, so they left it.
Yeah. But yeah, I don't know. There are a lot of organizations out there that are heavily reliant on the sync engine, and I don't see unplugging that thing anytime soon.
I don't see, no. The interface to the sync engine is poor. We're still on a WMI interface, the one from MIS 2003, and it's a clunky and process intensive interface. It works well most of the time, but sometimes it just errors or does its own thing. And it's also in terms of performance, WMI is not really the best. So we need better options. And I would definitely like to see a kind of a REST API interface on that for the sync engine. For instance, I still have to go via the GUI to configure attribute flows for the FIM service MA, which leaves room for a lot of human errors. I've been there with the FIM service MA.
I know exactly what you're saying.
And speaking about the FIM service MA, it really needs improvement. There is no room for customization. You can't write any C# or provisioning or provisioning code for it. It makes it difficult to work with sometimes. For instance, recently I had a case where I wanted to flow data from an attribute in the FIM MA to the metaverse, and then when it comes back to the FIM MA, I want to say if attribute is X, flow it to J. Else don't flow anything. I couldn't do that. I had to create another management agent to configure that custom rule. That was one extra hop to manage.
Yeah, the FIM-MA is not the easiest to work with, unfortunately.
Yes.
All right, good. I'm trying. So, any other things that you would want to see in the future, or anything else that was left out?
No, nothing.
One thing that I wish that they would add is the ability for the service desk to reset people's passwords via the portal. That's one feature or one request that I seem to get on a pretty regular basis, granting the service desk the ability to change people's passwords in the portal. But That one has not
Change
been there.
people's passwords in the portal?
Yeah. So if you want to, you call up and the use case would be that someone calls into the service desk and they want to change the password. They don't want to do it via like ADUC. They'd want to do it via the FIM portal or the MIM portal. And that's a common one that I see. And you can't delegate the ability to the help desk or a service desk
Well, actually, I did do that on my last project. So, and speaking about
but not out of the box, right? It's not
out of the box. Yes, not
right.
out of the
And
box.
that's the thing.
Oh yes, and the other thing I would like to add to what you've just talked about is, because this is a request from service desk, is when the user calls up, how can the service desk person identify that Tom Brown, the person who says it's Tom Brown, is actually Tom Brown? And that has been a question from the service desk regarding a password reset. How can we, on some other systems, they have you enter some kind of secret password, and that's when you register. And what happens is the service, when you call up, the service desk can actually ask you a question. They can see the answer, and they'll be able to tell if the person is who they say they are.
So it's kind of like that feature where you call your bank up, and if you need to discuss your account information, you've got no, I've got you. Yeah, I had a request like that for a project several years ago, and what we ended up doing was it certainly wasn't a perfect solution, but we flowed in some HR data, not personally identifying info, but some HR data like their department and those type of things. So at least the service desk could have something to try to ask people. I mean, again, not a perfect solution, but that was kind of the workaround. So yeah, I would love to see the password reset features in MIM be really fully fleshed out with some more of those use cases. So that's the one area that I would love to see improvement. But again, overall, since we certainly make our living working with MIM and FIM, I've certainly enjoyed it, and we don't want to I know it's always great to wish for stuff, but on the flip side is that we've got a lot of great tools compared to what we had in, like, say, Mint or MIS 2003, where, well, you know where I'm going, right?
Yeah.
Back in the Stone Age where, no one had any idea what was going on with MIS. It's a black box from a management, perspective, is that if you were a developer or whatnot, you could figure out what was going on, but from a non-developer standpoint, it was very much a black box.
So,
that's true. So we've had a lot of improvements that we should be grateful for over the past several years. So maybe kind of to transition into the stuff that we've liked about MIM 2016. You mentioned earlier that there are a lot of things going on in the MIM community with various frameworks being released and tools like yourself that you've developed. What are some of the other MIM community developments that have really caught your eye lately?
Well, there's the LiftNet range of tools, which is an excellent add-on to FIM. The LiftNet PowerShell is light, flexible, and fast. I don't even use the out-of-the-box PowerShell anymore, and I have used it to bring my MIM deployment time down from days to minutes, and customers like that a lot. I have one customer that they liked it so much they made me do a presentation of the tool to the whole team, and now the whole IDM team uses it.
No, those are very powerful, and that's Ryan Newington's tool.
Yes,
right?
Ryan Newington, yes.
And he actually had some great presentations on the last year, I believe, around this time, if memory serves correct, on the FIM user group for those of you that watch that as well. And Ryan demonstrates a number of the tools that he's developed. And you actually can, for those of you interested, his blog address is blog.lithiumblue.com. So that's blog.lithiumblue.com, where he actually talks about the LithNet PowerShell framework that he's developed and tools and whatnot. So it's he's done some incredible stuff.
Yes, and he also has a LithNet REST API. He was, as far as I know, the first person to publicly release a REST API wrapper for interfacing with the MIM service. And I know one or two departments that jumped on it like immediately, and they've used it for various things in their company. So that's certainly very useful too. I also used it on my on the mobile tools that I developed as well.
Okay.
And the other tool that's of interest to me is the codeless provision management agent, and it's also on Codeplex. And the one thing I want to use that tool for, if it's possible, is instead of building a regular ECMA2 management agent, to be able to build a codeless MA that can interface to whether it's Salesforce or whether it's any service manager or any other system. That would really be interesting. But yes, the codeless provision management agent is another thing that's of interest to me.
And that's the one up on Codeplex by Soren Granfeld, right?
Yes.
Soren has been putting out a lot of great stuff as well. So
yes, he has.
That's another one to check out.
PowerShell management agent is like a standard. I mean, you can't compare. I know Microsoft also has a PowerShell management agent, but you really can't compare the two. His own has a lot of features and ability as well.
Okay. What about have you done anything with the MIM wall lately, or the workflow workflow library?
Yes, I use the MIM wall I would say every day on my project, and it's huge. I mean, I've done so many things with it. I would really like to go back to all my workflows and actually translate them to using the MIM wall. But it's a very powerful tool, very easy, and you're talking about coming from somebody who is all PowerShell. I knew. I mean, I used the MIM wall. When I was in MCS, Microsoft Consulting Services, briefly, and coming out of there because you can't use. They had not released it yet to the public. So the only option that most people have is of course to use PowerShell. So I just about wrote everything in PowerShell. But the MIM wall, what takes you, 50 lines of code can be done in two or three lines with the MIM wall. So it's a very
it looks to be incredibly powerful. So yeah, there seems to be lots of good stuff coming out of there from it. I know that I've seen a number of people in the community that have been blogging about using it and kind of all the good stuff that's been going on. I believe that I think Peter Stamp had been writing or blogging on the MIM wall about.
Actually, I do blog on it just about at least almost every week or so, and Peter just blogged on it, and he actually used my blog post on how to install it, and he posted that
awesome.
because Yeah, I mean, installing it is just can be a lot of work, and once I got through it, I just posted it, and it's if you follow my instructions, you can just do it in less than 30 minutes. So and other things I have posted about, like I said, almost every week. I just yesterday just this morning, actually, I posted something on the wall, and Peter just replied with so many questions on it, and that was fun. We had a discussion on it.
Good, good. Well, yeah. So there are a lot of exciting tools coming out. So and there's a lot to know, right? As a MIM developer, is that you've got the portal, you've got the sync engine, you've got a lot of these third-party tools. So from your perspective, what would you say the top 2 to 3 skills every MIM professional or developer should have?
Um, Translating business requirements to technical skills has got to be number one, in my opinion. Identity management involves understanding business processes and how the identity of the user is important to these processes. What is the desired end state for the business and how to automate the process. This skill makes an identity management consultant stand out from his or her peers. It also makes it a more exclusive field because there are very few IT professionals with this skill.
Sure.
In,
Yeah.
in terms of technical skills, it's got to be, I have to put SQL and PowerShell slash C Sharp as the top two skills, technical skills you should have. I know that the MIM wall kind of buries a lot of these skills, but to have an understanding of what's going on behind the scenes, you still need the skills, SQL,
Sure. Sure.
PowerShell, C Sharp, and the MIM consultant or engineer um, is required to wear different hats, several hats, developer, admin, architect, project manager, and I guess this is what has kept the community small and exclusive. I hear from almost every week or 2 weeks from recruiters complaining that they can't find enough IDM professionals. So
Well, I would imagine it's not just MIM that suffers that shortage. I would imagine all the other identity management products out there as well, because,
yeah,
like you said, you've really got to you've got to have that full range of IT skills from the requirements gathering and translation into business, and then putting it into actual technical solutions. So yeah, it's not certainly not the easiest type of project to deliver upon because there's so many nuances around there. So, but yeah, I would completely agree with you that SQL's key, and then obviously C Sharp and PowerShell are some of those top skills. So looking into your crystal ball, where do you see the future of identity management, and in particular MIM, heading over the next few years?
well, that's easy. If we look at the um, AAD Sync connector, which is the connector from Active Directory to Office 365, or the Office 365 connector.
Right, and
That will
that's the successor to DirSync.
the successor to DirSync,
Yeah.
yes. That will tell you where we're heading. The latest AAD Sync connector is now half stripped of the customization options, and I'm expecting that the next version of Microsoft Identity Management product after MIM is probably going to follow that line. Less customization, more package tools, more harmony with different systems. Which is good. I guess kind of brings us closer to the Star Trek computer, where our identities will be recognized via voice, and synchronizations between systems will be easy and seamless. and I, you know, you know, I can't wait for Microsoft to raise MIM up to that space age level. I think the IDM community is going to lead the way, and I have really met a couple of very brilliant engineers who are going to challenge the future and come out with some really great tools.
All right. Well, it sounds like we've got a bright future or something to look forward to here.
Yeah.
So, so kind of looking forward here as well. What personal MIM projects are you currently working on or looking to start work on?
Well, currently I'm looking at the a tool, building a tool. I'm building a tool to run FameSync profiles, and I know that may sound like a cracked record because there are so many tools out there that that do this task of running your FameSync profiles. But I want to add my own flavor, which is the ability to run like a Delta Sync on a SQL MA, the ability to do a run on demand, um, and uh, which which will be very useful. And then later this year, I want to look at introducing voice a voice recognition tool to MIM.
You're not going to let this voice thing go, are you?
No, no. So it's an extension of the mobile password management tool I have developed, and I know I've heard a lot of bad stories about voice recognition. You know, it's unreliable, and it's difficult to translate. But I will find a suitable workaround, and that's something I want to do before the end of the year.
I think I saw way back when, and I don't think I was ever able to find the code or whatnot for this, but I think I remember searching for. I think one of my customers had a request about could we tie in the Microsoft speech recognition server to allow password resets for the FIM portal.
Wow.
And I recall finding someone doing a presentation on that, and in that presentation they had referenced some DLLs or code that they had developed, and I was never able to hunt it down. But I know that in the past some people, I guess, have at least attempted that. But yeah, that would certainly be a very interesting product to see.
Well, it it will probably be easier now because of the REST API. I think the big challenge that people faced 3-4 years ago with interfacing into FIM was just the SOAP API is very difficult to work with. Very difficult to work with. So I think with the REST API, it's going to be it is much easier. And thank you for this idea in terms of the speech recognition server.
I want my royalty if it takes off. So just remember me, Ike.
I will.
So let's see. So let me see. Final question: Captain Picard or Captain Kirk?
Oh, definitely Picard. Definitely.
Okay. All right. I don't know. I think a lot of people might go the Captain Kirk route. They're both great characters. So they were both fantastic shows. So I think I heard something that they may be coming out with a new show in the future.
No.
I don't. Who knows what will happen.
I had enough by Enterprise, the last one. I was like, please shut down this thing. I still want to. As a young teenager, I always. I think one of my fantasies was to actually build a data, and I still follow artificial intelligence and what's going on in that field. And unfortunately, it seems we're still a long way away from building data. I don't know why, but that's uh, that's a very interesting project.
I don't know. You may want to check out Ray Kurzweil's, what is it? The Singularity is Near. I don't know if you've ever read that book.
No, no.
No, you may want to check that out because he's
Okay.
very big. He historically was a big futurist, and now he's working on works at Google on I think on some of
Wow.
their special engineering projects. I can't recall his specific job title now here, but Ray Kurzweil, his book, The Singularity is Near, very bullish on technology and artificial intelligence.
Oh.
Has some interesting chapters on the downside of using those, but it's just remember you probably don't want to be the version 1.0 user of some of those technologies. So just keep that in mind. But okay, well, good. This has been great catching up with you, Ike, and all the different stuff that you have going on. It sounds like there are a lot of exciting things in your future. So, how can people find out more about you and what you're up to, and what are some of the things you've got coming out? What are the best ways to people keep up with you?
My blog is TLK Tech Identity Thoughts.wordpress.com, and that's where I share my thoughts and ideas, and you can always find out what what projects or things I'm working on.
Okay. And can people see some of the products that you talked about earlier? Are those
Yes,
linked up on the site as well? Okay.
yes,
Okay.
yes, and also some of the tools on uh, Codeplex, like for instance the reporting tool. It's on Codeplex as well.
Okay, great. Is that reporting tool also available with the voice interface, or is that version 2 that you're working
That's
on?
that's version 2.
Okay. All right. Something else to look forward to.
So,
So,
yeah.
all right. Well, great. Well, Ike, thank you for joining us today, and we look forward to hearing all the great stuff that you've got coming out. Okay.
All right. Thank you, Scott.
Okay. Thank you.